Good afternoon and welcome to Tea with Jess. I'm author Jess Montgomery and I'm delighted you're joining me for a tea break. As Nana says in my kinship mystery series, Life is Hard, Have Tea. And my mug today, you'll have to forgive the lipstick, is a Sisters in Crime mug. It says, right, murder, murder, murder. I just got this mug. And how appropriate to use this mug today, because today I'm welcoming Hank Phillippi Ryan, who is the past president of Sisters in Crime. But she's also, as many of you know, I'm sure, the USA Today best-selling author of 13 thrillers, including most recently Her Perfect Life, which just came out and received starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, which called it a superlative thriller. And I agree with Publishers Weekly because I finished reading it this weekend, and oh boy, it's a superlative thriller. She's won the most prestigious awards in the mystery genre, including 5 Agathas, 4 Anthonys, and the coveted Mary Higgins Clark. Not only that, but she's an on-air investigative reporter for Boston's WHDH TV with 37 Emmys and dozens more journalism honors. And like I said, I've certainly been kept on the edge of my seat for many of Hank's books, including Her Perfect Life. I've been riveted by her insights when I've attended several presentations by her. And I deeply admire her for the way, many ways, in which she lifts up other authors and readers, including through the Jungle Reds blog, Career Authors website, the Backroom Zoom book discussion gathering, which she co-hosts with Karen Dion, First Chapter Fun on Instagram and Facebook, which she co-hosts with Mary Hannah McKinnon, who's also been a guest on Tea with Jess, and most recently as the regular host of A Mighty Mystery on a Mighty Blaze on Facebook. So check out her website. It's hankphillippiryan.com for a lot more details about her superb career, her books, and upcoming events. So give us a second here and we'll bring on Hank. And welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you, Jess. The little intro, the little musical interlude intro is so sweet and just so Jess. I love it. And hearing your wonderful, kind words, I really appreciate it. Book launch week. I mean, this hasn't even been out a week and we're talking about this book and it's so high energy and so exciting and so fraught and so crazy. And so this is the perfect moment just to relax with a cup of tea.
Yes.
Very nice. And thank you.
And you have your tea. That's great. Yes. This is our chance to just relax and chat about Her Perfect Life. Like I said, I've read the book, so I have lots of detailed questions. No spoilers, but questions. But give us a quick synopsis in your own words of Her Perfect Life.
Well, as you well know, it's really difficult to talk about the plot of a book without giving it away. And I love that you're so careful about it. But there was a game on Twitter that sort of challenged authors to describe their book in 5 words. And this is really kind of a cool exercise because I thought, oh, I can do that, no problem. And it really makes you distill what your book is about. So I came up with sisters, betrayal, guilt, fame, and revenge. And so and I think that is those are the themes. The story, there was again back to social media, because why not? On Facebook, there was a challenge that said describe your book in 5 phrases, which is a little different, right? So I have a beloved reporter with a deep, dark secret, a missing college student, which is not the secret, an anonymous source, a clandestine, passionate weekend in Aspen, and a child's little pink suitcase, which is surprisingly empty. So Her Perfect Life, and look at this gorgeous cover. Is that not beautiful?
Oh, it's beautiful. Yes.
I mean, with all the shininess.
It's the perfect cover for a perfect life.
It is indeed. stars Lily Atwood, who is a beloved television reporter in Boston. Everybody knows Lily Atwood, and that's her problem. Because Lily has fame, she has fortunes, she has Emmys, she's a single mom to an adorable 7-year-old daughter, and she also has a deep, dark, ugly secret. And she begins to worry in her perfect life that someone is about to tell that secret. But how do you keep a secret when you're always in the spotlight? And Lily learns that the spotlight is the most dangerous place of all. So, two strong women facing off in a high-stakes psychological cat and mouse game to prove their truth about a devastating betrayal. But which woman is the cat and which woman is the mouse? And that is Her Perfect Life. Do you think you read it, Jess? What do you think?
I think you nailed it. And I'm so intrigued by the 5 words, and then you build on that with the 5 phrases, and then the pitch. I'm going to use that for my own work, like try to figure out,
there's a way to let people into the book somehow. And I think you can tell from that. So I'd love to hear about your new book with those 5 words when it comes out in March. Can't wait.
Yes. Well, when it comes out in March, I will have those 5 words ready. But talking about her perfect life, and I do want to talk about your themes about truth and lies in a minute, because that does come up in your other work. But you also have the theme of perfection in this book, seeking it, like trying to be perfect, or at least projecting it in how we present ourselves. And I was actually chuckling to myself as I was getting ready for our chat this afternoon, because I thought, I got to make sure the camera angle doesn't show on my laptop all the stacks of papers on my floor. So we all do that a bit, right? We try to present ourselves, at least an image of ourselves in a perfect way. But we know life isn't perfect. And certainly the past year has reminded us of that in myriad ways. But one of the lines I highlighted in your novel was, "The world was relentlessly unreliable." I thought that was so breathtaking. It is.
Oh my God, thank you. I'll just sit and listen to you talk. So nice.
Yeah.
And it is, isn't it though? I mean, we know, exactly as you say, especially now, just when you think you have everything under control, the universe just pulls the rug out from under you. And that's the one thing that you can rely on, that you're never going to know. So if you take that tightrope walk that we all do, no matter if we're famous like Lily or not famous, you're walking this tightrope of who you are and how you project yourself and how you're perceived and how you want to be. I mean, we behave differently. You and I behave differently talking to each other than we do at a job interview or talking to someone who we don't know. We have an image that we need to present. And that is intensified if you're a television personality, because you have to be perfect at every minute. You can never make a mistake. You can never be 1 second late. You can never call someone the wrong name. You can never get a fact wrong. You can never misunderstand a statistic. You can never miscalculate, and you have to look good the whole time and be live the whole time. And that stress.
No pressure.
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to get at in Her Perfect Life, is that underneath this veneer of look how confident I am and look how control I am and look how perfect my life is, right under the surface is this roiling mess of fear and stress and guilt and worry, all that, and wanting to protect your family from the spotlight that is also relentlessly on you. And Lily, the juggle for perfection of a television reporter like Lily is that her public expects her to be a certain way all the time. And she has chosen that, right? She's chosen to present herself that way all the time. Talk to me, tell me things. I'm approachable. I'm nice. I'm fun. Look, my hair is always great. As if anybody could do that. But on the other hand, she needs to have her personal life as well, because Lily chose the spotlight, but her 7-year-old daughter didn't. Right. And Lily's own celebrity puts her daughter at risk. And any mom is going to relate to that. Any mom is, when someone comes up to Lily in the grocery store and says, "Oh, that's your little daughter. Can I take your picture? Can we have a selfie?" And Lily sort of pushing her daughter behind her and saying, "No, thanks. I'll just keep my daughter out of it." And instantly instantly the person who was her fan says, oh, you TV person, you TV
Right.
people, you think you're so good. And
Yeah.
Lily, with one wrong phrase, has made an enemy, just like that. And that's how
Yeah.
fast it happens in television. And Lily knows that. But she's protecting her daughter above her own reputation and career.
Well, it was interesting because that scene, it was, we think of suspense as, when is physical danger going to strike in this big way? And then certainly your novel has, high stakes suspense, but I loved that you built in these, like, if I can say, smaller moments, or these
Uh-huh.
more day-to-day moments of, oh, but look at the suspense of just this moment. And I thought I could never do what Lily just did. I would just say something. My TV career would be over in 3 minutes because I would say something silly, or insulting or whatever. But I was sort of there with her, going, okay, how she's going to have to get out of this because she's Lily, but how is she going to get out of it? And so I'm just curious, did this theme emerge for you as you wrote and revised, or did you start the novel thinking, I really want to explore this theme?
In this book in particular, there was a great interview I heard with David McCullough once, the historian, who was asked,
Oh yeah.
do you have I do too. And he was asked, and you'll love this, Jess. He was asked, do your books have themes? And he said, yes, they do. And I write them to find out what they are. And that's usually how my books are. But this particular one, Her Perfect Life, really did start with the idea of the vulnerability of the spotlight. That I think that, and I'll tell you quickly, 2 fast stories about it really quickly. One of the stories for me personally that isn't in the book, but the feeling of it is in the book. When I started in television years ago, when I started in television, I was 26. So that's how long ago it was. I was a new reporter. I'd worked in my hometown of Indianapolis for maybe 6 months. And I was in the laundromat. That's how glamorous that life was. And somebody came up to me and said, oh, you're Hank from Channel 13. And I said, yeah. And she said, oh, I have a good story for you. Let me tell you all about this. Now, on one hand, I want to hear the story. I'm a reporter. She may be telling me the next Watergate. I want to hear it. On the other hand, I'm doing my laundry, so but you can't say that. Okay. You can't say that. So I'm sure and sincerely, I'm saying, tell me the story. But I went home and I called my mom and I was whining. And I said, Mom, can you believe it? This person came up to me in the laundromat and she was talking to me. And my mother paused for a moment. And then she says, sweetheart, you chose the spotlight. Welcome to the spotlight. And I never want to hear you complain again. And, think about how long ago that was, 40 some years ago. And I remember her tone to this day of, that's the deal that you made. That's one element of Her Perfect Life, right? That's the deal.
Yeah.
So the other story that sort of engendered Her Perfect Life, that again isn't in the story, but the feeling of it is when I was anchoring the weekend news in Atlanta, and I drove home. It was maybe midnight on a Saturday night after the 11 o'clock news. And I drove onto my little street, Park Street in Atlanta. And I see police cars on the street, swirling blue lights. And I think, ooh, crime scene, maybe I've stumbled on a story. And as I got closer, I realized the police cars were at my house. So I thought, that's not good. So I park the car, leap out of the car, run to the police officer, say, I'm Hank from Channel 2. And he says, yeah, I know who you are. And I said, well, that's my house. And he said, yeah, I know. I said, well, what's going on? And he said, we caught a guy breaking into your house. We caught him inside, and that's him. Yeah. And that's him in the cruiser back there. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, he says, the police officer says, yeah, he told us he broke into your house because he knew you were live on television. So he knew you weren't home. He knew where I was, so he knew where I wasn't. And Jess, that was so chilling. That vulnerability, that idea that I'm live on Channel 2, so I'm not at my house. And it was so nerve-wracking and so disturbing and so unsettling and so revealing and so terrifying. And so after all these years as a reporter, I've been threatened and stalked and punched and pushed over and, followed home and harassed and yelled at and screamed at. But and because people know, look at, the Emmys you talked about. Every one of those Emmys is a story that did a good thing, that changed the world, that changed laws, that changed a life. And I'm really proud of them. But they also made enemies, because every one of those Emmys represents a story that someone didn't want me to tell. Someone, some bad guy whose life I ruined by telling what they were doing. And so there are people who do not like me very much. There are people who wish I hadn't done those stories. And that's the same with Lily Atwood. So she's vulnerable, she's known, she has enemies, she has a past, she has secrets, she's always in the spotlight, and now she has this daughter. And how will those secrets that Lily has, or how will those enemies that Lily has, affect not just Lily, but her family? And so all that went into the story. You see that, right? You can see the underpinnings.
Oh, yeah. And one of the questions in our comment stream was about how much of you is in Lily, and you've answered that. You're maybe not putting specific things, details from your own personal or professional life, but that feeling is definitely there. And it was interesting. Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, it was interesting to kind of experience that through Lily, and honestly, to be very grateful that I've never been a TV news reporter, because it seems like, because like you say, that high pressure, you're doing good in the world, but if you're doing good in the world, that you're right, that does mean you're also making some people not so, thrilled.
And that's one of the sort of the untold stories of being a television reporter, because I do have people like Lily come up to me on the street and say, "Oh, Hank, we love you." And that's great. I mean, of course that's great, but I don't know them. They think they know me because I'm on TV in their homes all the time. But right, but it's a funny, imbalanced relationship.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I was trying to sort of reveal to people, is that you think you know someone on TV, but you don't. But it's just a funny disequilibrium sometimes.
Yeah. Interesting. So we've been talking a bit about your career, and one of the themes that comes up in this novel, but definitely comes up in other novels, is the notion of truth, lies, how the characters' attitudes towards those ideas, if you will, can impact their own lives, but also their relationships. So if you could just expand a little bit about how your work as an award-winning reporter has kind of informed this theme, as I'd say it's a touchstone in your fiction overall.
Oh, I so agree. So wise of you. Thank you. It really brings tears to my eyes to think of such an intelligent reader thinking about themes in my books. That's kind of amazing. So thank you. And yes, truth and justice, as you say, truth and justice are the themes in almost all my books, I think. What is truth? I mean, I know it sounds kind of highfalutin, but what is truth, and what does that really mean? There's your truth and my truth, or is there a truth? Or is it what we want to believe? Is it what we're told over and over and over? Is it what we wish for? Is it what we decide to be true? On my book, Trust Me, there's the cut line on the front says, there are 3 sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And it's because we all see truth in a different way. And that's why I'm fascinated with trials and juries and the thought process of truth morphing into justice. So we hear a story, we hear several stories, we decide which is the more probably true-ish story. And then, but in a courtroom, in a trial, in law enforcement, in making decisions on any level, it has to filter through our own brains of what we think is true, whatever that means. And think about sometimes how you wish for something, you wish something were true, and you can sort of rationalize and convince yourself that it's true. And that's what happens with Greer, the narrator in my book, she
Mm-hmm.
wants to believe a certain thing. And so, oh my golly, it's called something like situational analysis. No, confirmation bias.
Oh,
Confirmation.
yes,
You know,
yes.
you know this. So every time you see something that adds to your own argument, you think, see, that's true. See, that's true. But you neglect everything else. You ignore everything else. So you want what you want to be true. And that completely is a theme of my books, how we take the whatever the truth is and make that into our own. And then when it comes to justice, there's courtroom justice, and there's emotional justice, and there's sort of karmic justice, and what does that mean, and how we're all so focused on what justice, that what we think is justice, and how close in our minds might revenge be to justice.
Yeah.
I think Greer says something like approval is such a sister to envy. And that's, and justice is such a brother. I don't know why I made it male. Justice is such a sister to revenge. It just depends how you turn that prism. And that's what I'm looking at in Her Perfect Life as well.
Yeah. And, endless possibilities of stories and plots and characters with that overarching theme,
Sure.
which makes me wonder about your, now the writer, the word nerd in me is going to come out and ask about what does your writing process look like, day to day? Like, do you have a certain time of day that you write, or do you plot, or do you just sort of make it up as you go along and then go back and, is every day a surprise like now, or do you, do pre-writing? So tell us a little bit about your writing process.
All that except the pre-writing. That I don't do. I think I'm not doing that. I don't have time to
really?
pre-write. I don't even have time to write, let alone pre-write. That's just
okay.
Really? Do you pre-write?
Oh yeah, it's a way of avoiding writing. I pre-write in the sense that I do character, pretty deep character sketches. I kind of have to know the infrastructure of a novel. I have to think I know what the ending's going to be. Although every time I get to the end, I realize, oh, that's not the ending that you planned 6 months ago. And the bad guy that you thought was the bad guy for 6 months really isn't the bad guy. And you've got 50 pages to figure this out. So I do pre-writing in that sense. And I will brainstorm scenes on note cards, but, and maybe you do this in your mind. Well, you tell us, how do you go about this?
I don't do any of that. And I want to know if you could come over and help me do that, because it seems like a good idea. There are days when I think, oh, please let me have an outline. Next time I'm going to do it the grown-up way and have an outline, I promise. But then I can't do it. I mean, I've had my editor say, can you just send me an outline, at all? And I say, no. I mean, how do I know? And I've said to her these words, how do I know what happens until it happens? And it doesn't happen until it's in the book. So I'm not even going to do that. So I can explain it in a tiny bit of ways. Two quick things. One is I write mostly late afternoon and evening. And as it gets later and later, I'm better and better. And I kind of wonder, I mean, if I tried to write in the morning, cannot do it. You would find me with my head clonked on the computer, out. But at night, at midnight, wow, I'm really good at 6. And I think I've thought that possibly it's after all these years as a reporter on the 6 o'clock news and the 11 o'clock news, at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my brain starts thinking, you better work, you better write. Your story's going to have, your stories do. You've got to be on the 6 o'clock news. You've got to be on the 11 o'clock news. This is the time to write. And I can really do it at like starting at 2-ish. I'm really good. I do not have any idea what's going to happen next in the book. I mean, I start with a germ of an idea, like a core of, somebody vulnerable, and Perfect Lily, #Perfect Lily came to mind.
Yeah.
And a little daughter. And what am I going to do with that? And I just type chapter 1 and I say, okay, let's see what happens. So it is a risk. It is a tightrope. It is this crazy combination of naivete and bizarre confidence. And I think it comes from television, is that I'm an investigative reporter. I start every story with a theory, a possibility, a question. What if that guy is really doing this? Or what if that isn't real? Or what if that system really isn't working? And I investigate what is really going on, and I'm in search of the story. So I think that's exactly what I'm doing when I'm writing. I think, okay, what if it's this? And then let's see. And then I'm in search of the story. And it takes me a while. I mean, I have this moment at page 36 where I think, okay, I got this. If I can get to page 36, then I know I have a story. Somebody told me that a long time ago. I don't even know who. That anybody can write 35 pages, but you can only write 36 pages if you have a real book. So I thought, okay, that sounds like truth to me. Talking about what we were talking about, that sounds true to me, true enough. And I go by that. So it's just, George R.R. Martin talked about that there are two kinds of writers. The architects who have a structure and then they weave their story, they build that story around the structure. And the gardeners who have an idea and they plant it and then they see what grows. They don't even know what's going to grow. And that's what I completely do. I plant the seed and I think, okay, I'm going to cultivate this and see what happens. And it's always a surprise, always, always, always a surprise. And that is what gets me to the computer every day, is that I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. And only I can write it. I can only know if I write it. And that's how I work.
That's lovely. I like that analogy that you just shared from him. And it's interesting to me too. I think you're really onto something about your professional training as a reporter and in the moment, I'm going to follow the story. I can't know where it's going because I'm a reporter.
And also if I knew, it wouldn't be new.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be an old story.
I was trained as a technical writer.
Ah.
Yeah. And then I did tech writing for a long time. And then I moved into marketing communications. And I think maybe I'm an architect in the George R.R. Martin duality there, because of having been trained as a tech writer, that you have to figure out this structure and this outline, and you have to understand the machine or whatever it is that you're going to be documenting before you can document it. So that's interesting to me.
I mean, it is interesting because in tech writing, you know what it has to be. You're trying to explain it. So there's going to be an overview and then a step-by-step and then a summary. And you know that structure. As a storyteller, though, you also know that there's a beginning, middle, and end. A character who you care about, a problem that needs to be solved. The good guys win and the bad guys get what's coming to them. And in the end, you get some justice and you change the world a little bit and it means something. So that's fiction. And then you take your marketing. Now you add persuasion to it. Now you're adding emotion to it. Here's the thing I'm going to explain to you, but I want you to think of it the way I want you to think of it.
Yes.
And all that together is how you write a novel.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. I've learned something about myself just from talking with you. Another word nerd question that I want to take a few minutes to get into, and it's intriguing to me because you do write, you've just told us that you surprise yourself each day. One of the things I'm really fascinated by point of view, and you have 3 points of view, and 2 are in third person. So she and her, he and his, but one of the points of view is in first person. So I and my. And I'm really intrigued by this storytelling choice. Did it come to you on one of your, writing sessions, or did it come in revision? And so tell us about this unique, to me, very interesting and unique approach to point of view in your most recent novel.
Yes. When you ask a question like that, it comes out as if you expect me to say that it was a plan. So, it was not a plan. And I'm very grateful to the universe that offered it to me. Because I know that grown-ups are supposed to write in third person past tense. Lily Atwood stood at the podium and received her Emmy, and she thought X, Y, and Z, and she did X, Y, and Z. Okay. And my first, and just a little parenthetically, my first 4 books were first person. First person comes if anything comes naturally to an author, which I'm not sure anything does, but storytelling comes very naturally first person to me. I can do that. When I started writing thrillers, big, multiple point of view thrillers, I knew I had to change the third person past tense. I had to. That was the grown up way to write. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. My brain would not do it. So I literally, honestly said to myself, once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess. Okay, a fairy tale. I know how to tell a fairy tale. So I know how those sentences are. So I'm going to write my novel in sentences like that. Once upon a time, there was. And so when I wrote about Lily, and that's fine. And the Lily scenes at the beginning were third person Lily, close third, Lily point of view in her head, but still a little away. And then as I turned the page to chapter whatever it was, I typed Greer, and that's her producer, Lily's television producer, partner in professional partner, Greer, her producer. And it came out something like, did I want to be Lily Atwood? Well, something. And I thought, whoa, what's that? Okay. If Greer's going to talk to me this way, I'm going to transcribe what she says the way she says it. And and her voice came so easily to me, because I understood her. I understood her motives. I understood her personal inner conflict, the battle between her personal desire and her professional ambition, her jealousy of Lily, her super professional talent as a producer. Her, a producer and reporter, parenthetically, I think we're in double parentheses now. A producer and a reporter don't choose to work together. They're assigned.
Right.
So you don't know who you're going to get. And also, if one fails, the other fails. And if one succeeds, the other succeeds. So no matter how you feel about the person, your professional future is tied to them. So then as I started writing Greer in first person, I started realizing that readers were going to believe her because it felt like she was talking to them. I'm telling you this as Greer. I'm telling you this. So you think it must be true. And then I realized that one of the pitfalls of being a celebrity like Lily is that people are going to talk about you, and they're going to have opinions about you, and they're going to share those opinions, and they could be wrong. They could be wrong. But yet we believe our friends. We believe the people whose minds we feel we meld with because they're telling us this. And so I realized that Greer was almost the personification of sort of vox pop, of sort of the voice of the people, of sort of gossip and social media and assumptions that people make about celebrities. So I started thinking that's so interesting, because if we believe what Greer says, maybe that's not true. And I thought about readers judging Lily by what Lily did and what Lily says, or judging her by what Greer says, like, ooh, did you hear this? Like how we latch on to gossip and the sort of schadenfreude we have, being happy when somebody else is unhappy, what an ugly emotion that is, and how we're so used to that. And that's Greer that isn't really doing anything wrong. She's just never doing anything wrong. But it's the way she doesn't do anything wrong.
Yes, some of her attitudes, like, oh, Greer, let's have tea. Let's talk for a minute here. Yes.
So that was it. I mean, so it wasn't this elegant professional writerly choice. It was my writer brain just saying, here's how this is going to be. And then realizing why it did it and then kind of liking it.
That's great, though. I think that's wonderful that you're trusting the process. You're trusting your own creativity. You're allowing things to bubble up and you're trusting that. And I love that you said it was sort of a gift that came to you as you typed the name Greer and let's explore. Yeah. So one of the reasons I like to do this.
I hope it worked.
It did work. That's why I asked the question, was because I was fascinated by that. But one of the reasons I like to do the podcast and the Tea with Jess Facebook feed is because, well, I get to talk with lovely people like you, and it provides inspiration for me. I always learn something, but also I want to encourage other people to explore their own creativity, whether it's writing a poem or creating a sculpture or a piece of pottery or whatever. So I'm curious if you have a tip or two that you'd like to share for our listeners and viewers about, exploring your creativity.
Yeah, I've got 3 fast ones. Let me do this really quickly because I don't want to take up too much time. But one of the things that happens is when we get to the middle of a book, or we sort of think, oh, now what? I've written 100 pages, 300 pages to go. What am I going to do? And because I'm a gardener, I don't know what's going to happen next. So I make lists of possibilities. And I'll tell you specifically. For instance, in one scene, in another book, someone came home and they found an envelope taped to their front door. And I'm typing this and I'm thinking, wonder what's in the envelope. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. And then the next day I sat down at my computer and I thought, what's in the envelope? For gosh sake, Hank, why don't you know this? Who would have put an envelope on a door without knowing what's in it? So I thought, I don't know. So I just took a pencil and my trusty, computer side notebook and just started making a list of everything that could possibly be in the envelope. Everything, no filter, nothing. There could be a letter, there could be a note, there could be a ripped out magazine page, there could be a newspaper clipping, there could be an obituary, there could be a will, there could be a blank piece of paper, there could be a photograph, there could be nothing. I just let my brain go. And in that list, as I was not having to decide, I was just offering myself possibilities. In that list was the thing. And I knew it the minute I wrote it, but I just had let my brain go and said, you don't have to make a decision here. Let's just think of some stuff. And that, knock on wood, always seems to work. And I have now embraced that as a way of writing. If I don't know the answer, I'll just write every possible answer and one will come up. Another tip that I have, and I think this is from TV again, is sometimes when I don't know what's going to happen next, a constant state of being, I close my eyes, which is sometimes risky. I close my eyes and I watch the movie of my scene. I rewind back to the beginning of the scene from when I knew something, and I just watch what happens. And when I do that, I see the reality, like, oh my God, there are too many people in this room. Somebody has to go. Or where is it? People have coats. Why don't they still have their coats on? Take off your coat. Or somebody opens the door and comes in from outside in the snow and their glasses fog up. Or the phone will ring or something will happen in the movie. I let myself watch the movie of the scene. And when you change to visual from typing, sometimes the story emerges. It's really interesting. And finally, I got this from my editor. She said to me one day in an earlier book, she said, your character does not live outside this novel. Without giving me any more words of description, change some of the words in your novel to let this woman have a life in the past. So I think I said something like, how am I supposed to do that? Something whiny like that. And she said, her apartment in Boston? And I said, yeah. And she said, who moved her in? Who moved her in? And I thought,
that's a brilliant question.
Isn't it? So I thought, did she call a moving company and say, here are my boxes, put the piano on the 3rd floor, put this here, I'm having champagne, I'll see you later. Or did she have a gang of friends come in a truck with beer and they sat on the floor and had pizza? When they unpacked the boxes, what was in them? Does she really want to be there in the first place? Did she move there under duress, or is she so happy in her new house? And when you start imagining how the person got to where they are, suddenly their whole past emerges. It has to. And then you get personality and intent starts coming out. It was such a brilliant, thank you, Kristen Sevick, such a brilliant question. And I think about that all the time.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Well, thank you for those tips. And thank you, everyone who tuned in. And thank you for people who listen or watch later the recording. We appreciate you spending some time with us, having a little bit of tea with us. So thank you so much, Hank, for joining me for Tea with Jess. And everyone, until our next tea break, take good care of yourselves and your loved ones and have fun.